wave your hands.
제10회 보원문학상 시상식 겸 문학세계 29호 출판 기념회 및 신인상 시상식을 거행하겠습니다. 오늘 사회를 맡은 저는 보원기념사업회 사무국장인 소설가 이영훈입니다. 감사합니다. 이렇게 와주셔서. 먼저 본회 회장이신 박창규 회장님 나오셔서 개회사를 해주시겠습니다.
코비드-19 때문에 사실은 그 무기한 연기를 하려고 생각을 했었는데 다행스럽게도 좀 사태가 좋아져가지고서 늦게나마 1월 달에 하려던 것을 갖다가 3개월 늦춰가지고서 열게 됐습니다. 하여간에 불행 중 다행을 생각하고 여러분과 함께 우리 오늘 신인 또는 우수작으로 당선되신 우리 타냐 코 홍, 또 우리 신영애 선생님, 또 임선주 선생님 정말 축하드립니다. 그리고 특히 이번 그 어려운 중에서도 이 책을 우리 세계 문학세계 29호죠? 29호 발간하기 위해서 참 어려운 중에서도 수고를 많이 해주신 우리 편집위원들과 또 특히 그 편집위원장 정찬열 이사님께 특별 감사를 표하면서 오늘 제10회 보원문학상 수상식을 거행하겠습니다.
네, 감사합니다. 다음은 축사 순서가 있겠습니다. 먼저 미주 한국문인협회 회장인 김준철 회장 나오셔서 축사해 주시겠습니다.
네, 반갑습니다. 이렇게 귀한 자리에 초대해 주시고 또 이렇게 축사할 수 있는 기회까지 주셔서 너무 영광입니다. 저는 미주 한국문인협회 회장 김준철입니다. 오늘은 제10회 보원문학상 시상과 축하를 하는 자리입니다. 오늘 수상자인 고현혜 시인과는 오랜 시절부터 알고 지내던 사이입니다. 저희 LA 와서 문인 생활을 하면서부터 거의 비슷하게 알았으니까 한 25년 이상 인연을 가지고 지냈다고 생각됩니다. 그녀의 순수한 열정과 호기심은 항상 저에게 도전을 줍니다. 이것은 글을 쓰는 이들에게 가장 중요한 덕목이라고 생각합니다. 열정은 엔진이고 호기심은 그 엔진을 돌리는 기름과 같다고 생각합니다. 여기에 그녀는 한 가지 더 가지고 있습니다. 그것은 사랑이라고 부를 수도 있고 연민이나 공감력이라고 할 수도 있습니다. 그녀는 이민 1세대와 2세대를 연결하는 다리로 자신의 역할을 저에게 이야기한 적이 자주 있습니다. 바로 이것이 그녀로 하여금 문학적 성취에까지 이르게 했다고 생각됩니다. 그런 그녀가 미주에서 그 무엇보다 작품의 완성도와 기여도를 잘 저울하여 심사하는 고온 문학상 10회 수상자로 선정된 것은 당연한 일이라고 생각됩니다. 미주 모든 문인들 대표하여 온 마음으로 그녀의 수상을 기뻐하겠습니다. 앞으로도 고온 문학상의 가치와 의미를 더욱 높이는 수상자가 이어서 나오길 바라고, 또한 이번에 신인상에 당선하신 임선주 선생님과 신영애 선생님에게도 아울러 축하를 드립니다. 온 마음으로 축하드리겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. 다음은 축사 한 분이 더 계시는데요. LA 포치 페스티벌 디렉터인 수잔 루미스께서 나오셔서 축사해 주시겠는데, 수잔 루미스는 여러분들도 아시는 분은 잘 아실 거예요. 벌써 오래전 고원 선생님이 살아계실 때 고원 선생님과 함께 우리 코리안 컬처 센터에서 함께 신앙성의 밤도 갖고 이랬던 우리 한인 문단과는 인연이 깊은 분입니다. 그래서 우리 고현의 타냐가 속해 있기도 한요. LA 포치 페스티벌 디렉터 수잔 루미스요. 여러분 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I recognize my name and LA Poetry Festival in there. And thank you for all of Tanya's friends coming, and to Ko Hong, actually, who inspired this award. Isn't that right? Thank you, Ko Hong out there, who Tanya introduced me to years ago. Now, speaking of Tanya, let's see, got a list here. I wonder if I can remember everything on my list. Publishing poet, publishing author, community organizer, arts organizer, and now I found out something new about Tanya that, oh my gosh, the list just goes on. Cook. She's a professional cook and did a series, YouTube series. Tanya, did you tell me that she's over there being interviewed?
Because it's trying to get the live, and then some people get online. This is like a live stream right now.
It's live stream.
Yeah. So that some people said, like, text me and they said, like, I cannot get it.
Oh, I see. So there was an emergency, but it's solved now because Tanya helped them get in. So back to my recording right now. So arts organizer, community organizer, publishing author, and poet, and now I find out she's a cook. But when I first met Tanya, she was not all of those things. She was some of those things. And I remember when I first met you, Tanya, Song Yi introduced me to you, and he said, this is an important poet. She's going to be an important poet. And at that time, and it was years and years and years ago, and Tanya said, I want to study with you. But first, she had to fulfill her family responsibilities for several years, right? You were just taking care of a family. And so every couple of years, I'd run into her, and she'd say, I'm going to study with you someday. And I'd say, when? And she'd say, when I finish with my family responsibilities. And I thought, oh, when that's going to be, you know, in the next century or something. And then one day she showed up in my class and she said, I'm ready for this. And what's impressive to me about Tanya is her work ethic and her sense of responsibility. That first she had to do the other thing, get her family all independent and everything and able to survive without her. And then when she went into poetry, she gave it 110%, and it was poetry from then on out. And she now organizes. I was in 2 of her events, one at Beyond Baroque, which was a healing event in response to the anniversary of the burning of Los Angeles in 1992, and she brought people together of different communities to read poetry, to reflect on what happened. I was at a reading, I think it was at the Korean Cultural Center, wasn't it? With people, I saw friends from all over, from the universities and from the grassroots community, friends that sometimes that I had that hadn't even met each other. I met new people. So she does so many important things. You know, there's a word social political, and Tanya there should be a word artistic social political to really cover everything that she does. But she is both social and political because she's also, she raises awareness about violence against women. And she does that. It's also an issue for many people here, men and women. It's an international problem, a domestic problem, and there are not enough people drawing attention to this, and especially through poetry, as well as through her other events. So before I read a poem, and I want to surprise you with a poem. Maybe you'll be a little surprised. I'm going to read a poem by Ko Hong, but I do want you to get this book right here, which I just purchased. I was late in the game. I just suddenly thought, wait a minute, I've been talking about this book. Do I have it? And I began to reflect on the fact that I don't think I have it. I do now. I own my own copy. Everybody out there, I hope you get one. And it also has a powerful and effective session about the comfort women, that story. So she's a courageous poet, talented, great work ethic, and now I find out she can also cook. Oh my God. This poem by Ko Hong, who this reward is named after, isn't it? I think it is, right? Isn't it in his honor? Wonderful poet. If somebody out there does not know his work, I hope you discover him. And this poem is called Taklamakan Desert. Why am I going to the Taklamakan Desert? The emptiness there. Why am I going to the Taklamakan Desert at 75, leaving all words behind? The cry of the emptiness there. Why am I going to the Taklamakan Desert? I can no longer stand the world's greed or mine. There in the Taklamakan Desert, the silence of a 2,000-year-old skull. I think that's an immortal poem because sometimes there's too much noise in the world and not enough silence, right? Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for your...
오케이, 다음은 보원문학상 시상식으로 들어가겠습니다. 심사평은요, 시간 관계상 여러분들이 그 문학세계 29에 나와 있는 것을 참조하시고요. 시상식 직전에 수상시를 낭송하고 또 그 타냐고에 대해서 얘기해 주실 분이 있습니다. 우리 Angela Franklin, and would you please come to the Hyonye.
Hello, everybody. First and foremost, I want to say that I stand in solidarity with the Asian community, with all the recent acts of hatred that have been leveled against Asians in different parts of our country. It's very hurtful, and I totally get it, I understand it. And so I stand in support of the Asian community and all of its sufferings. Tanya has a way of grabbing you, whether you're willing or not. You cannot tell this woman no. I don't think she understands that word in any language, okay? And I've known Tanya nearly 10 years, and it's never been a dull moment. She's adventurous, vivacious, confident, bold, but she's also a very generous person, and she has a lot of love in her heart for people. And what I really appreciate about Tanya is her ability to bring people together. She is a bridge builder. And it doesn't matter what race, what sex, Tanya's gonna find a way to link people together. And that's what I love about her. I can tell you a lot of stories about Tanya, but she'd be blushing and so would you. So I won't. But I will say, I won't take up too much time, but one of the things that I can say about Tanya is a gift to whatever community she's involved with. And to me, her greatest gift is this book right here. Because in reading that book, it opened my eyes to some very egregious, just horrible things that were done against women. And once I heard her poetry, I said, well, I'm gonna look that issue up for myself. And I did. And I was absolutely astounded how she was able in so few words to paint these pictures and to tell these stories of these women that were forgotten and ignored. And of course, in some instances, we know that this issue was said it never happened, as other horrible things in our history have shown us that did happen. So when I read her poetry and her book, I thought, wow, I did my own research. And I have to say, Tanya, because of you, I've become more of an activist for women-related issues, whether it's in this country, whether it's in parts of Africa, China, or wherever. It's made me become a more responsible poet and writer. And the job of the poet is to tell the truth. The job of the poet is to point to the areas that aren't being covered. The job of the poet is to inform and enlighten the world. And Tanya, you've done a great job of doing that. Because when one woman hurts, I can assure you, we all do. Thank you so much for being a part of my life, and congratulations on your wonderful achievements.
네, 감사합니다. 그러면 이제 시상으로 들어가겠습니다. 회장님, 시상자 타냐 앞으로 나오셔서 시상해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 이리 나오시죠. 이 앞으로. 그거 안 돼, 안 돼. 네, 그럼 제가 상표를 낭송하겠습니다. 제10회 고원문학상 시인 타냐 현해 코 님께서는 시집 The World Still Within을 통해 탁월한 작품성을 성취했으며 미주 한국 문학의 발전에 크게 이바지하셨습니다. 이를 이어 고원 시인의 문학 정신과 사랑을 담아 이 상을 드립니다. 2021년 4월 22일 고원 기념사업회 심사위원 마종기 회장 박창규 증정해 주시면 되겠습니다. 네. 상표와 함께 문학상 상금 3,000원을 수여되겠습니다.
보이게. 이렇게 보이게.
용우 형이 안 보이는데
다시
이렇게 보여서
보여주세요. 다시 한번. 하나, 둘, 좋아요. 글씨 좀 보여주세요. 글씨. 하나, 둘. 됐습니다. 네,
감사합니다. 그리고 상패 너무 길어가지고 줄였는데 미중문학뿐만이 아니라 Korean American Literature as well with 여기서 탑 리더가 되시기를 바랍니다. 희망합니다.
수상자 나오셔서 수상 소감 말씀해 주시겠습니다. 축하. 아니야.
Thank you everybody and especially 지금 줌으로 고원 선생님의 와이프 되시는 사모님 되시는 고영아 선생님께서 못 오셨는데 지금 줌으로 보고 계십니다. 하이 고영아 선생님. 저는 지금 사회를 보시고 또 미주 문협의 이사장님으로 계시는 이용우 선생님을 1987년도에 만나게 됐습니다. 왜냐하면 제가 1987년도에 제가 미주 크리스천 문인협회와 그 다음에 울림에 당선이 됐습니다. 그때 제가 대학생이었는데 그때부터 이 미주 문역에 이제 시를 쓰게 됐죠. 그러니까 1987, I become a writer in Korean community. So that's like kind of long time ago. And then the board director of a Korean American Literature Association, who was introducing me, Yong Lee, came and picked me up. I was the college student at the time, so I didn't have a car. So he picked me up from my dormitory, and then I got a award. That was a long time ago, and I am just so amazed. And then Go-won is one of like a distinguished professor, and then he got literature, comparative literature. I think a doctor's degree from NYU, what I believe. And then we share last name, Ko. That's a very rare last name. And so we feel like a family. And he always called me like, Miss Ko, you know. And then Mrs. Ko sent me an email saying, my husband loves your work so much. And then I really want you to work your work really forward. And as the president of the part say that I think I was a young writer and I grew up, and then as Susan must say that I raised 3 children. So it was very hard for me to come back and then continuously working. But I was growing up while I was doing what I was growing up as a writer. I was start writing in Korean, yet I went to pursuing my writing in English. And Susan, I don't know if you remember, when I was taking your noir poetry class, I said, I feel like I'm having a love affair. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I was going to Susan Lemon's like a noir poetry class, and I have this like heart pumping, my heart like driving 2 hours to Los Angeles traffic. But yet I go there and then writing poems that was just gives me so much passion. And then that leads me to go continue my education as a poetry master degree at Antioch University. And that led to me open the door for like how American writers publish poems. You don't have to be published poet. But in Korea, you have to be published and then win the contest to become a poet license, right? But yeah, so like to be a poet is a very big thing because you have to get a license. That Americans don't understand, but you cannot just say poet because you have to win the contest or you have to recommend by somebody to be a poet. So we all here are licensed poet, writer in Korea. So when you Google your license, if you're not licensed, you cannot say you're licensed poet. But what I learned in America and then start publishing in America, I realized we have to express. And what I learned is as a Korean American, we have so many Korean writers in Los Angeles among all of the United States that yet we don't have our names. For instance, for one who was like a very distinguished writer, yet Hilda, who's the owns like Poetry LA and interview all these poets and then making great poetry, and then Hilda said, let me check it out. And then Hilda said, I don't see Ho Won. I felt so sad because he's been passed away about 12 years ago, yet he's well known in Korean society and Korean community, yet we don't know. And then Susan, when we have the conference a couple years ago, I introduced about Ho Won to American society. And that's the, I think as Park Chang-gyu 회장님 said that, I think I need to be a bridge to connecting our Korean American writers and then American writers together. And there's so many things happening, yet our identity stereotype that is very hard to distinguish as a writer because of the barrier of the language, because we cannot express or we cannot, how do we say, we cannot deliver our emotions and topics in English. It doesn't mean we don't have great images. So I think it's just very important at this point. And I know that out there you're listening in right now, this is like right now that I wanted to say. That's why when I read poetry in a lot of times that I start reading at least one poem in Korean, because we are here and we are here to love each other. And then we are here to exchange our heart. It doesn't matter what race we came from. It's a human, or like a human connecting. So I hope this time that I wanted to introduce, there are like so many, like just Korean American Writers Association, the president of the Kim just came announced, and that was established in 1982. And then there's more than 400 members. And then I feel we're just so isolated. But I think this is time that we connected. It doesn't matter what language do you speak, but we are connected with the heart. So mom is like the heart in Korean. I really hope this time we connect with our mind, mouth, the heart connected. So thank you so much. And then this time, I am just so grateful that I got this award. But this award is not just for me. I think this is like telling for American, Korean American writers stepping out and saying, this is who we are. And I wanted to thank Ho Won poet, and then I wanted to continue to express his poem and then his mind to America. So I know, thank you so much, and thank you, my friends. And continuously, I really wanted us to connect and beyond languages, we connect and understanding being human. Thank you so much.
네, 고현예 씨의 수상을 진심으로 축하합니다. 제가 마종희 선생님의 그 심사평을 읽어드리진 않았지만 거기에 뭐가 어떻게 말씀하셨냐면 타냐고가 수상을 하면서 이 보건문학상을 수상하면서 앞으로 우리 한인 문단과 미주 문단, 주류 문단의 그 증거문단의 역할을 잘 하리라 그런 큰 기대를 가지고 뽑는다고 말씀하셨습니다. 그래서 앞으로 부탁 많이 하고 기대가 큽니다. 네, 감사합니다. 그러면 곧 이어서 문학세계 29 출판 기념일 및 신인상 시상식으로 들어가겠습니다. 먼저 정찬열 문학세계 편집인께서 나오셔서 문학세계 출판 경과 보고를 해주시겠습니다.